My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only, and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes, and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. All right, this is where the fat Caucasian male is gang stalking me at the square. And this is exactly what he was doing with the city of Ontario last night, while he's engaging in what is gang stalking me in furtherance of murder with the government that is actively targeting me. Actively targeting me in concert with El Bacon. They're gang stalking inside of this patio, this club right here. They're doing so while a bunch of males are stalking me. The African-American male, the fat white male, the male that's underneath the amphitheater. He's stalking, tracking my steps as I'm walking around at the square documenting. The demons are stalking with impossible light activity, and they're doing so while Jason Fields and Tracy Banks, the original co-conspirators and leaders of this, initiating demons like Mike Lorenz and the Ontario police, who are paid stalkers and co-conspirators of murder, who are actively engaging in what is advertising that criminal conspiracy by stalking me every day on video as I document it. They're doing so while they remain in custody of my money. Regarding court hearings that I did not participate in, meaning there is no legitimate court case regarding any jurisdiction over money and property that belongs to me that never should have been given to anyone else, including these demons that are stalking me in planes and helicopters. Okay, this is the fat white male that's engaging in that pattern of conduct. He's sitting at this bench here. He's wearing the beanie. And I published the evidence on the venue of the internet, and this is exactly where he was remaining. Okay, this is an entity that's monitoring in real time. They're engaging in what is very threatening conduct, stalking, pacing all around me, while the entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct. They're doing so on behalf of Tracy Banks, on behalf of Jason Fields, on behalf of Eric Spencer, all of those that have conspired my death, while they have plotted on what is my life in order to keep my money that they've already stolen. In fact, the entity is even gang stalking, trying to coerce me into relationship, meaning Tracy Banks's idea is that I'm gang stalked so horribly, I am kidnapped and harassed so bad that I'm going to go back to her house, that I'm going to associate with her so that she can keep trying to kill me, so that she can keep money, and that so she can keep a false narrative regarding there being a relationship between us, regarding her not being what is a co-conspirator of plotting my murder, which is, again, the relevant evidence to have her committed. Her and her sex partner, Jason Fields. There will be no out-of-court negotiation. Jason Fields is gang stalking me as I'm documenting the Ontario police. He is not going to be treated differently under the law. He is going to federal prison just like Tracy Banks, just like Eric Spencer, who are involved in this criminal conduct that is still underway. It's still ongoing, and I still remain dispossessed of my money. Anyone claiming that they're coming to give me my money is not doing so pursuant to what is a lawful order by the court, any court, that has not included me in any court hearings, while the people of the state know exactly who I am and they're gang stalking me. This is criminal activity by the U.S. government. And Jason Fields is going to prison for it. He is not a judge. He's not maintaining a court hearing. He is not engaging in any sort of conduct that's going to legitimize the ongoing terrorism that I'm subject to. He is a part of that terrorism, both withholding my property and gang stalking me at the same time. That's what the Ontario International Airport is doing, and they're doing it with the Ontario police, who are stalking me as I get off the bus, stalking me while I'm on the bus by helicopter, and doing so on a nightly basis, a daily basis. P.O.C. It is currently 12:09 a.m. P.O.C. The entity is maintaining surveillance. This is a demon that's sleeping outside to keep me under surveillance with the city of Ontario. That's flying over El Pecan. They're gang stalking inside of El Pecan. They're maintaining surveillance. They are stalking in the path, using their vehicles as light activity. And the entity is doing so at what is 12:16 a.m. There are no scheduled flights. I'm publishing that. You can see there are no flights at all that are scheduled. And there's also no flights coming from the airport where you're hovering. You can see how large the plane is. The commercial airline companies are engaged in what is betting against my life, gang stalking me, counting on me going crazy so that they can defame my character, effectively frame me for murder, and also ultimately take my life for murder so that no one would miss me when you are successfully depicting me as a murderer, as mentally ill, as delusional, claiming that things like an airport are stalking you when they actually are. This plan did not successfully work, but I'm also going to prosecute for it. That's why I'm remaining, and I'm going to prosecute Jason Fields. He's responsible for the airport stalking me. I'm going to prosecute Tracy Banks and Eric Spencer, everybody that sat in court hearings that I was excluded from. While this entity is gang stalking on behalf of those that are perjuring themselves in court, they're all going to federal prison together. This is what companies like Amazon Prime and Delta Airlines and Southwest Airlines are engaging in furtherance of my murder, and they're going to prison. That's the totality of that system with the Ontario Police Department. They're going to prison. All right, this is Mike Lorenz, who's going to federal prison, and those gang members who are engaging in surveillance with demons that are sleeping at the square, maintaining presence at the square on behalf of that agency, on behalf of this city, with the entity that's gang stalking, abusing the court system like the Ontario Police Department do, they're going to federal prison. And Jason Fields is engaging in what is terrorism in concert with the Ontario police, who are currently stalking. He's going to prison. This is somebody who's delusional as though he's an exception. He's not. Tracy's going to prison. Jason's going to prison. Eric Spencer's going to prison. Jason's going to prison. This is P.O.C. It is currently 12:18 a.m. Alrighty, as I dig into my bag, the entity begins flight over here, and that's sounding flight. So they're already stalking by commercial planes. The entity is sounding plane activity and conspicuously flying over and around as I begin a new activity such as digging into my personal belongings. This is occurring pursuant to what is ongoing surveillance monitoring. As I'm on the bench and I look behind the bench, for example, the entity's places impossible light activity starts flying about back here. And this is the entity that's just ongoing stalking. The population is just maintaining presence around me, and they're stalking. They're engaging in this pattern of conduct, and they're doing so. I just want to document. I documented this demon last night that was stalking with light activity. The demon drove off, this truck left the premises, and so did the fat white male that was sitting in front of me. And as I wake up this morning, this entity is stalking by planes, and the entity returned the vehicle. These are the type of things that they do when they know that they've been documented, they've been cited, they've been recorded, and they return throughout the night, and they park that truck right here in front. I just want to document that. It's criminal stalking. The entity is stalking by plane, however, doing so, and it's currently 5:30 a.m. They're doing so at the town squares where I'm at. So they are flying what is off of B Street right here. Flying off of B Street and doing a cartwheel adjacent to me, okay, south of my person. This is what they're doing pursuant to my movements. That's monitoring conduct. The entity's doing so while I'm being gang stalked, targeted with impossible light. And the entity, like they were yesterday morning, Ontario police are in relevant position, always stalking, just like the people of the state are via traffic, stalking with light, surrounding me in the perimeter. These are demons that are in police vehicles. They're always stalking in the sky space. They engage in conspicuous surveillance as I document them engaging in things such as psychopathic pacing in helicopters, flying over my head, flying around me, and flying in circles over and around me. The entity is engaging in that while the entity uses commercial airline planes, the commercial airline companies that are going to be federally prosecuted for psychological torture and criminal stalking and furtherance of trying to harass, threaten, literally monitor, which is inhumane. It's beyond stalking from place to place. You're stalking someone, maintaining activity as they're moving. That's what the commercial airline companies are doing. These are demon-possessed people that are using planes and are stalking me. This is P.O.C. It's 5:32 a.m. And as I documented, this is the entity engaging in this outside of what is published. Today's the 17th. There are no flights published until 6 a.m. And any 6 a.m. flights, like I stated, they're coming from flight numbers and the gates that are here. The entity is merely stalking. And as I show you that, as the entity is again stalking with planes. Okay, this is the entity that is admittedly engaging in targeting. And doing so, this has nothing to do with destination, going anywhere. They're blatantly stalking and monitoring. This is the entity that's admittedly doing so for the criminal purpose of trying to frame me for murder. Gang stalking me is not going to accomplish that. The entity is going to be committed, and they're going to be criminally convicted for this. Paul Leon's being removed from office. They're pacing with the people. Stalking on B Street with light activity. They're monitoring me together. They're in their vehicles. They're maintaining presence all around. They're doing so while the entity is stalking me with impossible light. And they're engaging in this psychopathic pacing using commercial planes, doing so, which is B Street at the Mule Car Smokehouse. All right, this is the entity that's engaging in that together. Okay, they're doing so while they're monitoring what it is that I'm doing on my device, monitoring my physical movements, doing so where there are no flights even scheduled at all. It's currently 5:33 a.m. And pay attention as I document that, as I refer to that simultaneously. A plane that is already stalking, it's already present. You sound plane activity and a plane is visible at the moment that I'm doing that. These are the demon possessed. This is criminal monitoring. This is what the people of the state are. They're stalking and monitoring in vehicles. They're stalking and monitoring at the town square wearing security uniforms. All right, this is the people of the state that are here. The entity that is monitoring is doing so with the people. Okay, I documented that demon's license plate. This is not parking enforcement over here at the Ontario Town Square. This is a male that was operating that vehicle, monitoring me last night, stalking with light. This is the demon that's engaging in that. This is who was operating that vehicle, doing so at the square while this demon was tracking my steps. All right. This is an entity that is, again, homeless or not. He's monitoring me. As I'm walking to document this sex offender, this demon comes out of nowhere, tracking my steps, walking in alignment to me, just like the entity does with the fake sun, remaining in alignment to me. And then he's engaging in what is stopping here and looking down, and I'm homeless and I'm sleeping. This is the demon that's monitoring. He's stalking me with the state. All right. And he's doing so with the entity that's acting together. This is Mobility Solutions parking enforcement, and he was doing so at what is 11:34 p.m. 9 YAL 932, and he's stalking right now at 5:35 in the morning with the Ontario International Airport. That is stalking while they are engaging in what is aerial surveillance, stalking using commercial planes outside of what is published on the Ontario International website. Okay, this is P.O.C. All right, and to clarify, I woke up this morning at 5 a.m. And the moment that I began moving in order to get up and pack up my stuff, this is when the entity, again, pursuant to monitoring any change in activity, physically or on a communication device, the entity is engaging in this conduct. They're doing so with commercial planes, okay? This is the inhumane means of stalking and monitoring, and they're doing so at 5, not published on here, okay? But there's no planes that are going to occur over here at the Mule Cart Smokehouse. And the entity's engaging what is flying, doing cartwheels. This is exactly what they did at 5 a.m., what they're always doing, and there is nothing that changes when they're engaging in cartwheels stalking at the Mule Car Smokehouse versus when they're hovering over the Mule Car Smokehouse building proper. They're in relevant position, deviating miles away from the airport, engaging in what is ongoing chicanery in the sky space. They're engaged in psychopathic pacing, and the entity literally that is caught stalking uses cartwheels as though they're stating, well, we're not flying over the building, so we're not stalking, even though we're in the same location, and we're just going to make a U-turn. And they're stalking when they're engaging in psychopathic pacing. They're engaging in psychopathic pacing when they fly plane after plane after plane over a building where I'm located, and they're engaged in psychopathic pacing, mentally ill behavior when they are doing cartwheels where it is that I'm documenting them. This is exactly what the entity did at 5 a.m. like they did at 12 a.m. today, outside of what's published regarding flights that are taking off and have an actual destination, which they are not, while they're hovering over Mule Car Smokehouse, hovering over the Stater Brothers, hovering over Emporia Place on Hope Boulevard, hovering over me while I'm walking through the neighborhoods, and they're engaging in these cartwheels as well. They're stalking me as an airport. This is the demon that's stalking.
It's flying over El Bacon. They're gang stalking inside of El Bacon. They're maintaining surveillance. They are stalking in the path, using their vehicles as light activity. And the entity is doing so at what is 12:16 a.m. There are no scheduled flights. I'm published.
This is the entity that's doing exactly this.
Where you're hovering, you can see how large the plane is. The commercial airline companies are engaged in what is betting against my life, gang stalking me, counting on me going crazy so that they can defame my character, effectively frame me for murder, and also ultimately take my life for murder so that no one would miss me.
This is the entity that's engaging in what I'm explaining in that video is the purpose behind stalking in such absurd and spectacular, expensive and costly and unfathomable ways. The entity does that but this doesn't work with the entity that's never thought this all the way through. It doesn't work when you're being documented. So the entity has admittedly engaged in targeting me, and these are the reasons why. That's what I'm going through that video, to frame me for murder, to defame me in order to murder me. And this is the entity, the same entity that's gang stalking the commercial airline companies, the city of Ontario, the state of California. All right, actors like Jason Fields, Tracy Banks, Eric Spencer, those who have lied in the corrupted court system in order to steal wealth that belongs to me.
It's not going to work with regard to defaming me when I have evidence of you stalking, including the evidence of airline companies targeting me throughout the city in adjacent cities where there's not even an airport, whereas having an airport isn't even an explanation for what they're doing outside of what's published online. And they're engaging in what is conduct that doesn't even have anything to do with arriving at a destination such as San Francisco, Seattle, Salt Lake City. You're engaging in cartwheels, doing so at 5 in the morning. And they're doing so on an ongoing basis as I'm documenting that. But I just want to point that out. While they're engaging in cartwheels, they are confirming that they are indeed stalking, and they're stalking my every move. That's monitoring in the engineered light, where that context is the fake sun documentation. These are demons, and the city of Ontario is engaged in surveillance in furtherance of murder. That's why the government is monitoring. Mike LORENZ, the Ontario police, have the same mental illness. They're monitoring, not just stalking from place to place. They're monitoring. That's what I wanted to show on video, P.O.C. Alrighty, this is P.O.C. Alright, and the rationale behind that is that I'm showing you what they're doing. So they replicate it because this is an entity that is desperate to and determined to continue stalking. Alright, the flights from the airport are occurring at 6 a.m. and none of that consists of flying over 200 North Euclid Avenue. This isn't going toward San Francisco. It's not going toward Las Vegas. Las Vegas is going in the opposite direction. And not only the opposite direction, it's not coming anywhere near the Ontario Town Square. They're flying northwest to come over to this location and then lower in elevation necessarily, because coming up from the airport, you have already risen in elevation. This is a public nuisance while they're hovering. They're amplifying plane activity. And what do you think everybody in this area is doing while the airport is targeting in this location? They're all monitoring. All right, so while, like I stated, the government that is gang stalking is prosecuting the people of the state that are gang stalking. Everybody inside of Metro 102 apartments, everyone inside of the John Stewart Company senior citizen apartment complex. Literally, that government is hovering over that senior citizen complex at all hours, day and night, including by helicopter as well. That's prosecuting the elderly that are gang stalking, and they have no complaints regarding the clear violation of not only the multifamily zoning area, but also the clear disturbance to what is quiet enjoyment. Old people that get apartments in this area that's going to be quaint and peaceful, not having commercial planes hovering over the apartment like they are here, and they're doing so at 5 o'clock in the morning, and there are not even any scheduled flights. These are demons that are stalking. They're pacing on Lemon Avenue, driving through the Ovid Family Community Library location, the downtown Ontario luxury apartments, while they're stalking, going around the perimeter with light activity. They're doing so on behalf of the Ontario Police Department. Those are the ones that commit the kidnapping and the murder as an entity. Okay, this is the entity that does so, and they do so under the guise of what is policing. All right, the police killed you, shot you, kidnapped you because you violated the law, you were threatening someone, and the police are stalking the entire time. They're stalking with the city airport that I've been documenting for since the beginning, stalking me. Okay, targeting in the area where the people of the state are targeting as well. Also hovering over downtown Ontario luxury apartments. There's no planes from the airport that are hovering over these apartments. This is the entity that's targeting, okay? And everybody in this area is targeting while the airport is flying over here targeting. And that is literally axiomatic. That's natural, and that is the evidence of the government prosecuting the people. The people are the co-defendant, vicariously acting with them. P.O.C. This is 5:49 a.m., right? This is what you're looking at. Still, there are no flights that are scheduled until starting at 6 a.m., all right, and those are coming from the published gates. All right, going toward what are published destinations, which have nothing to do with what the Ontario International Airport, the commercial airline companies who are being federally prosecuted, what they're engaging in, which is targeting. This is the city of Ontario engaging in that criminal activity, which is in furtherance of the conspiracy to commit murder. As the city of Ontario, which is the Ontario International Airport. This is while the entity is engaged in stalking me with light. All right, the most vivid illustration of that is the fake sun documentation that I've shown. This is mentally ill conduct of demons that are monitoring. They're monitoring while they're stalking with activity creation at every move that I make. They're monitoring while the entity is stalking with light. All right, that's the mentally ill behavior. It's psychotic, it's deranged, it's obsessive, and it's pursuant to what is necessarily stalking as an entity. And you are doing so on behalf of the public entity, including where you live. The government doesn't reside there. The government's maintaining ongoing surveillance there where you live. That is not private property by virtue of the pattern of conduct that the people of the state share. And that's what's relevant regarding the government stalking through the commercial airline companies, the city of Ontario, the Ontario International Airport. The entities engaging what is psychopathic pacing, as the mentally ill are the demon-possessed that are engaging in this pattern of conduct. And the federal prosecution for gang stalking, this beast system, this criminal monitoring by a public entity that's occurring at all places and at all times, is relevant to what is psychopathic behavior while they're actually just pacing all around. That's why the entity maintains that environment in all the ways I've shown you. Engineer light is present day and night. During the day, under the fake sun. During nightfall, the same engineer light. Well, I show you that that's not the sun. It's not the natural environment. It's impossible. And it's also impossible that you, wherever you are in the country, we are sharing that same star. That gaseous ball of fire that I'm showing is not moving anywhere. It's remaining over me, rising and setting even at the same address, the same location where I remain, to show you the totality regarding the entity that is indeed stalking with light. And the demon-possessed are engaging in surveillance in that environment. That's psychopathic pacing. This is that entity that's engaging in gang violence, and this is all in furtherance of Mike LORENZ, and before him, Derek Williams, the agency, the Ontario Police, who have committed a series of kidnappings pursuant to stalking me. The Ontario Police are stalking vicariously through the population that are sharing that pattern of conduct. They're not focused on work. They're not focused on maintaining a grocery store. They're not focused on maintaining a transit line. They're not focused on maintaining the business of a library. They're engaging in surveillance, and the pattern of conduct shows that. And the government is stalking me as I go to all types of venues like what I just mentioned, like the aforesaid, who are gang stalking me. The government is stalking me where the people of the state are sharing in that pattern of conduct. And they're mentally ill while they engage in that with the highly unpersuasive act, merely just being silent and looking around as though nothing is happening, or the contrary, where they're engaged in what is harassing, asking questions whether they're being documented, and they are demons proven through the pattern of conduct, through the demonic environment that is supernatural, and their behavior, which is impossible that a population would share a pattern of behavior. Okay, the entities engaging in that while they have a fake sun over where they live, you're gang stalking, you're monitoring, and you're a demon. And you're asking questions about that which you are engaging in. You're engaging in that which you don't have any right to do. And you're being documented for it. And the purpose behind asking a question that you know the answer to is relevant to what is going to be prosecuted as mentally ill conduct, the behavioral health issues that are presented by that population speaking as an entity, and also relevant to what is psychopathic, while you are literally gang stalking through the posing of that question that you know the answer to. They're monitoring, they're psychotic, they're obsessive, and they are determined. The entity is showing that through the stalking with plain activity while they're doing it on video. So you resort to doing a cartwheel, and it's as equally stalking conduct as flying over the Mule Car Smokehouse, doing so during the 5 a.m. hour. And there's not even any plane scheduled to a destination, nor is there any destination that you're headed to other than to engage in the very allegations that I presented, which is why you're engaging in what is cartwheels over the sky space, where the airport would have no planes flying over here, and it would not create any disturbance. It would not be presenting any sort of nuisance like what I'm also showing, and the entity that is gang stalking with the people are not complaining about that because they're engaging in that ongoing disturbance, that ongoing nuisance, that ongoing stalking. Okay, that's the P.O.C. License plate, stalking in the path, 7 Wendy 82002. This is a stalker. As I arrive at this location, this is a demon that's lying in wait to engage in crossing a path. This is where the government's engaging in what is cartwheels. This is Mule Car Smokehouse. So as I travel, this is the entity that's engaged in that, and this is the city of Ontario engaged in the same pattern of conduct, the exact same pattern of conduct. All right, this is the entity that's engaged in that. If you'll pay attention to my documentation, all right, I am pummeling the entity that's stalking by commercial airline companies. I'm going to prosecute them, and many of them shall cease to exist because it's a threat to the safety of American citizens. And that's going to have an inevitable effect, by the way, with regard to travel. But this is the entity that they're murdering you, they're monitoring you, they're violating your privacy, they're profiting off of this, and they are a threat to the public. So it's going to affect these commercial airline companies. They're terrorists and they're sex offenders, and it's a massive RICO case. But as I document that, the entity always follows with the city itself, flying in smaller government planes. Okay, this is what Upland, California is doing with Cable Airport that has no commercial airline companies. The city of Ontario is maintaining ongoing surveillance. It's the same exact pattern of conduct. They're doing so with these commercial airline companies that are engaging in interstate commerce, making money, utilizing logos like Amazon Prime, that is gang stalking with the city of Ontario, that is gang stalking with the people of the state, okay? Where the government is monitoring, so are the people. Charlie Larry Thomas 0069, that's a Washington plate. This is serving the criminal purposes of this agency that's committed a series of kidnappings. The kidnappings pursuant to what is stalking me is to serve a very specific purpose, to harass, threaten, and psychologically torture, but also to literally defame my character on paper, where this entity intends to steal from me, get away with stealing from me, and ultimately murder me and frame me for murder. Okay? This is Engineer Light, where the people are crossing paths. Alrighty, this is P.O.C. The entity is stalking by commercial plane flying over the 150 North Euclid Avenue. Stalking, moving as I move. Okay, they're engaging in cartwheels and stalking with the people of the state. They're stalking 8YLM 194, and they're sex offenders molesting 33698 Robert 1. And this is, again, has nothing to do with the airport. The airport's publishing flights to destinations as of 6 a.m. This is the entity that's no longer flying over Metro 102 over the Mule Car Smokehouse. This is the surveillance that the people of the state serve, stalking in the perimeter with light activity. They're doing so while the airport is maintaining surveillance around me. As I travel, so does the entity, including in the smaller government planes, the city of Ontario, that's stalking south of my person. P.O.C. This is the entity that's engaged in that, and it's currently 6:01 a.m. where the entity is flying over this 150 North Euclid Avenue, and they're engaged in that, and that's not a flight to San Francisco. That's not a flight going toward Dallas, Texas. The entity is hovering, flying miles away from the airport, and is still hovering. That's not a takeoff. That's the entity that's also stalking as I'm traveling down the street with the people, 9WEH403, who are stalking. They're stalking. They're an Engineer Light in their vehicles on the roads and the highways. This is speaking to the government that's monitoring systematically. Okay? This is federal stalking that's occurring on the roads and the highways. P.O.C. These are demons. The demon possessed are engaged in that. And Griffith Company is a psychopath. That's a company. I'm going to prosecute. The companies are going to be, I want to be clear, corporations. You are perfectly capable of prosecuting them as serving what is a threat to the public while they practice mentally ill behaviors. The entity is doing so using their commercial vehicles, using the venues where their business establishments are located. The fake sun being over your business. The demon-possessed employees stalking with light like Griffith Company. That is speaking to and serving for having that company be one that is viewed under the law as being a threat to the public, such as the demons operating Griffith Company vehicles at the Griffith Company establishment, and these psychopaths are studying their vehicles, studying their phones inside of their vehicles and engaging in what is aiming like. That's what I just took a picture of. A white pickup truck, and you'll see the entity stalking by City of Ontario small plane, and then I'm capturing now on video what is necessarily flying miles away. I took the video on the bus yesterday, going down Holt Boulevard, and then going on Vineyard, and then going on Airport Drive. And this is where the entity is engaging what is flying miles away, like I stated. And you're doing so based on where I'm located. They're flying in this direction to be over the town square. They're coming miles away from the airport, and you're hovering over buildings where I'm located. And then you engage in what is the cartwheels while the entity is stalking with light. This is the Ontario Museum of History and Arts back here, Emporia Place. It's a dead end. This is the demon that's stalking with light. And businesses are perfectly capable of being prosecuted under the law as engaging in that which is a threat to the public while that establishment is exhibiting what is the engagement in the pattern of conduct which is mentally ill, in furtherance of murdering people, targeting them, surveilling them. Doing so while the demon-possessed employees, those associated, those owning those companies, operating those companies, like the employees of Griffith Company here, stalking with light just like demons are with them around the perimeter. This demon, if you paid attention, she was standing outside, lying in wait conduct to use their vehicle as light activity. Psychotic. Griffith Company are stalking with light, and they were doing so yesterday morning with the Ontario police that were engaged in criminal summoning in relevant position, going into back streets and alleys. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. There's no train that they're getting on now. They're stalking in the path. That's a dead end. They're stalking. That's all they're doing while the government is flying miles away from the airport to engage in that targeting conduct. And this is how all those facts line up. And this is how the law is able to treat mentally ill conduct. The demon-possessed that are operating businesses, that are flying planes, that are engaging what is stalking and doing so. This is Griffith Company that's monitoring, by the way. And you know what? Because they're no longer flying over the Ontario Town Square, but they are still flying over me while the entity is maintaining that activity. Griffith Company is a threat to the public. They're doing so in concert with Union Pacific. This is P.O.C. Griffith Company is gang stalking. And they're doing so while they are engaging in what is with the City of Ontario, using construction and their engagement in what is working on the roads. These are the demons that merely wear hard hats while the fake sun is over me, and they're using the vehicles, they're using what they're doing on the roads and the highways, construction, as light activity. It's surveillance by the state. All right, and again, this is the entity that is, it's currently 6:05 a.m. P.O.C. Alrighty, Union Pacific is, again, audible activity. That is a train that's not going to disrupt my sleep at the town square, especially while I'm listening to content, listening to headphones. The entities engaging in this inside of Tracy Banks' apartment at Woodside Senior Apartments. That's on video, where the fake sun is rising and setting. Union Pacific is a demonic company. You're going to prosecute for that. That's the entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct, and it takes on that same demonic feature, stalking with your physical movement, stalking as you operate your device, stalking as you document, stalking in concert with the entity that's targeting through the Ontario International Airport and the commercial airline companies. All right, this is again Comet Electric, Griffith Company as well. License 9 Charlie Frank David 594 is the psychopath that's inside of this trailer, gang stalking and furtherance of murder, and Comet Electric is going to be federally prosecuted for that as well. These are the demons that are operating under that corrupt business, and you're going to prosecute them. All right, any of them that are immigrants are going to be deported. This is light activity while he walks to the doorway, while they're pacing, walking in opposite directions. These are demons. All right, and Comet Electric is a demonic company. They're engaged in terrorism, in other words. They're vagina monitoring, and they make money with the corrupt cities like Ontario while they're monitoring pursuant to what is a pattern of conduct and providing a service at the same time. The service is central to surveillance. This is P.O.C. Comet Electric are a bunch of demons. So that's the pattern of conduct. It is currently, with the Ontario International Airport, it's 6:06 a.m. Like I said, these companies, they hire immigrants, non-English speaking workers coming into this country with a privilege. The privilege is on the basis that the prerequisite that they're engaged in surveillance, criminal monitoring, they're being shipped right back to wherever. And companies are going to be federally prosecuted for facilitating terrorists, facilitating terrorism, funding it, providing a way in which for immigrants to engage in terrorism, like companies like Comet Electric, the City of Ontario, and any company, frankly, to be for that matter, because immigrants are coming into California and they're gang stalking American citizens. And this is going to reverse and undo all of that under the law. Okay, P.O.C. It is currently 6:07 a.m. All right, Griffith Company here. They're stalking with light. And the entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct. That's Alaska Airlines. Alaska Airlines, which is stalking with Griffith Company as you're prosecuting the businesses, and they're mentally ill. These are psychopaths that engage in their whole purposes, look like you're doing something, look busy, and that's supposed to rebut what is the evidence, and it's not a rebuttal. It's not, it's an admission. You have to be present. That's how you are gang stalking, and it's public corruption. That's how it exists in plain sight. And they're doing so with the entity that is engaged in that P.O.C. Comet Electric and Griffith Company, who are psychopaths stalking with light. And that's not a coincidence while they're engaging in that, while the plane is necessarily for Alaska Airlines, which conducts takeoffs at the airport, is not hovering over where Griffith Company is located, but for criminal monitoring. Doing so at what is 6:09 a.m. Okay, Alaska Airlines is hovering while they're engaging in this, and this is the crime scene where the entity is engaging in surveillance. Griffith Company and Comet Electric are entirely illegitimate, and so is everyone else. Andy's Burgers is monitoring. This is the entity that's gang stalking. Omnitrans is maintaining their traffic light, and I've documented every aspect of it. I've documented the gang stalker Andy's Burgers. I've documented the gang stalkers of Brian's Automotive. I've documented Griffith Company gang stalking with the Ontario Police by helicopter under the fake sun, and they're monitoring now. I've already documented all aspects of it. This is P.O.C. The entity is now flying over the sky rink, the ice skating sky rink. You've got plane activity. All these third parties that I'm going to document right now by license plate are monitoring. All right, there's no takeoffs over here. Alaska Airlines taking off at the airport is not going to cause any plane activity here. This is at Transit and Plum. This is P.O.C. That's why they're on the back street at the dead end, stalking with light. This is surveillance, and they're unintelligent. They're merely obsessive. The entity is a stalker. That's why the entity is stalking with helicopter. As I'm documenting these employees of Omnitrans, they're going to prison. They're going to federal prison. License 9 Larry Nancy Xavier 553. 6 Yolanda Robert Mary 495. Coming in and out of what is the entrance. The entity is engaging. Vitco Foods is gang stalking with the City of Ontario. P.O.C. 7 Zebra Nancy Robert 628. And the entity is now paying attention, no longer engaging in cartwheels, focusing on what is the town square area. Very clear documentation of stalking. P.O.C. This is the entity that's stalking right here. And attention to what are the demons doing? Testing a method of light, that's a demon. Okay, we are not united or affiliated by the color of our skin. This is a black-faced demon. He's demon-possessed. He's mentally ill. You know what's wrong with his mind by his criminal pattern of conduct, which is tangible evidence to prosecute and also to have them committed. This is public corruption where you're also going to prosecute the company. These are the companies engaging in what is a matter of public corruption. That's a civil and a criminal case. And the government that is stalking is doing so with the people of the state. That's P.O.C. The entity is maintaining what is psychopathic pacing, plane after plane after plane after plane after plane after plane after plane. This is exactly what they're doing at the Ontario Town Square. And they're doing it with the people. Wandering in the parking lot, okay? They're demons. They're all monitoring. They're all stalking, in other words. They're all stalking. Andy's Burgers is stalking while somebody is at the venue, accessing their venue, monitoring with the government, 51285Y3. And Vidco Foods is license 75545 David 3. This is Vidco Foods. You're losing your licensure. You're losing your business, your ability to operate that business while you're engaging in the pattern of conduct with the government and furtherance of murder. Asking questions what's going on is audible activity. They're doing so. Understand they do that under the fake sun and they're monitoring and doing so. The government is stalking. The government is stalking. You're looking at the terrorists themselves, the ones that are right there in front of your face. P.O.C. Okay, you've seen this pattern of conduct before. This is Starbucks that's monitoring with quality distribution, QDC, and you're looking at them, the documentation of them molesting me with impossible light activity. You're looking at the government stalking at E Street in Euclid with plane activity. You're looking at the Ontario Police Department stalking by helicopter while they are ostensibly just making a delivery. They're not just making a delivery. It's the pattern of conduct. It's surveillance. 93257 George 3. That's the same pattern of conduct here. Vidco delivering to Andy's who are inside of the venue, gang stalking. Is, on contrary to the record, no sun remaining over the B&G Plaza from morning until evening, which is already P.O.C. Now when I'm in Fontana and the fake sun is remaining in Fontana, California, that's also letting you know, wherever you are in this country, that you're under surveillance. And this illusion regarding this demonic environment is referred to as the specific environment, as I've termed it, because of what the entity is doing, which I documented for everyone's information. And I'm going to prosecute what are corrupt businesses that are a threat to the public, like Alaska Airlines, like Amazon Prime Air, like what is Southwest Airlines, like what is Omnitrends that's monitoring. P.O.C. going past the bus stop. They're going past the bus stop. This is P.O.C. All right, this is the entity that is indeed targeting, and they're doing so while they are monitoring the evidence. It's hostility. P.O.C. Good morning. Employee number 4014, monitoring with the Ontario International Airport, doing so on Hope Boulevard, engaging in what is doing cartwheels outside. This is the entity that's sharing in psychological torture. It's not just a demon stalking with the planes. This is P.O.C. Route 61. Okay, this is the documented pattern of conduct. It's facilitation with the people who are stalking in the path. 9 Jerry, Uncle David 354. This is a RICO against McDonald's, a RICO against Loomis. These are demons that are monitoring, and the restaurant itself is stalking. Loomis is stalking. The people are stalking. This is, again, Garda World, gang stalking at Stater Brothers. This is Brink Security, gang stalking at the Wells Fargo. This is Brink Security gang stalking at 7-Eleven. They're engaging in light activity. This is Loomis gang stalking at the Bank of America in Upland, California. This is light activity. In relevant position where I've already shown the fake sun. License 99675 Yolanda 2. Loomis is a vagina monitoring terrorist, engaging what is monitoring me, stalking, maintaining that ongoing pattern of conduct, just like employee 4014 of Omnitrans. The entity is doing so around the perimeter. All right, the documentation showing the fake sun blazing over me, and while I'm on Omnitrans, I documented the fake sun over me at all times of the day, going past the same route. Loomis is a terrorist engaging what is mentally ill behavior, practicing that as a company, and the demons operating those vehicles associated with that company. That's relevant for removing companies from existence. They're engaging in terrorism. This is P.O.C. This is a stalker that's monitoring with Loomis. This is also how you're going to prosecute civilly and criminally. And even when these brokies don't have money, prison and restitution. All right. It's not going to be based on how deep your pockets are, but I will drain all your pockets when you are a company like Loomis engaging in the pattern of conduct of furtherance of murder. 9 Robert Paul Charlie 620. 9 L Frank Uncle 874, 8 Charlie Charlie David 422. And systematically, the stalkers surround in the drive-thru. They're all engaged in what is a sex offense. Anticipation to engage in sex offense. They're salivating not over McDonald's breakfast biscuits, but my vagina. Okay? 83283 Frank 4. This is Ontario Mills, 6:43 a.m.
Vagina monitors coming in, monitoring an engineer light, and this is the entity that engages in what is harassment. Ryder will be prosecuted for engaging in that. This is McDonald's that's harassing with Ryder. Ryder has a documented pattern of molestation, harassment, while the entity engages in acts of violence. Ryder includes itself in that pattern of conduct, and this is McDonald's engaging in that. They're psychopaths while they're gang stalking with this ongoing closeted hostility, which is shown as they engage in the elements together. 6YRR050. 9DOK062. They're all in engineer light inside of the McDonald's restaurant. Omnitrans is gang stalking, and so is Ryder. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, it is currently, by the way, 7:15 a.m. This is McDonald's engaging in psychological torture, and so is Ryder, so is Omnitrans, so is the Ontario Mills Mall. They're on the roads and the highways targeting, and they're all sitting here eating their food. This is in engineer light. P.O.C. Ryder is very much engaged in calculated conduct, and this vagina monitor comes in gang stalker representing the company. This is what UPS did. These are the companies that know that they're being exposed for surveillance, and they're also going to cease to exist. All right, while the companies and the employees who are demons engage in what is exhibiting that which is a threat to the public. P.O.C. while they're engaged in criminal activity. Sitting in engineer light, walking in an engineer light, stalking in the path. Hi, P.O.C. This is surveillance. Alrighty, you're not doing anything other than monitoring. You're not doing anything other than monitoring. And they're vagina monitors. They're sex offenders. Alright, this is P.O.C. Let's pay attention to that. Who's talking? Excuse me. There is the entity that is stalking by plane. This is the entity that's admittedly engaging a federal RICO case, which McDonald's just handed over to me. This is a very large case with regard to a federal RICO prosecution while UPS is stalking, and they're doing so over what is the Ontario Mills. Doing so in sync with what is tracking my steps, while they're monitoring, again, what I'm doing on my device. And this is what inspires fools to lose criminal cases where they go to prison, and they will be prosecuted as terrorists. They will be deported out of this country. They will be prosecuted as sex offenders that are unfit to be around children. They will be prosecuted as corrupt companies, engaging in what is conspiracy to murder while they're sharing in a pattern of conduct and making money like what McDonald's is doing. McDonald's, UPS, Ryder, Loomis, the Ontario Mills Mall. This is P.O.C. They're engaged in surveillance inside of the restaurant. And that's the entity that's hovering over the 200 North Euclid Avenue venue while they are at the Ontario Mills, where I've captured the fake sun every bus that I'm on during the day from morning until evening, in other words. And the fake sun is here. That's what the entity is doing. All of the people inside of the McDonald's are there by gang stalking and furtherance of murder, engaging in surveillance with the government. UPS that committed murder in Kentucky is a threat to the public, one of the types of companies that will cease to exist. And that is after I drain their pockets, draining to the point to where they no longer exist, and also prosecuting the company. P.O.C. This is the federal RICO case regarding what is murder that UPS is committing. I'm establishing surveillance. So the entity that's engaging in murder like UPS that is also stalking me is a basis to remove that company from existence. You are not too big to fail. You're not too powerful and rich in order to be prosecuted at all. These are laws and these are policies that will supersede what the terrorists think will overrule, which is money. And that's a lie out of the pit of hell. These demons are being prosecuted. UPS is engaging in what is communicating a threat, which it intentionally does. In fact, it does it while it's being documented. And while they think that that's spooky as a gang stalker, it's an admission in federal court for domestic terrorism. They're very highly imprudent defendants. This is their first round at this, and they already lost. I win. It's P.O.C., where UPS is gang stalking, 7:31 a.m. All right, they're tracking your steps.
That's the entity that's engaged in what is gang stalking. You're looking at the messages and the ongoing communication expressly and impliedly by the entity. They go around carrying Target bags under the fake sun. They engage in what is gang stalking through companies such as Target while they're monitoring. This is the fake sun that's over the venue. I'm documenting on video at 9:35 in the morning. The fake sun is over me. I'm on Omnitrans crossing this path, leaving the library in Fontana, going to Ontario, and the fake sun is over me at 3, 4, or 5 o'clock in the evening. This is stalking. 81351F3 is the federal RICO case against McDonald's that's engaging in vagina monitoring, facilitating it, and acting in furtherance of my murder while they're in there serving gang stalkers who are engaging in surveillance inside of that restaurant and all around that restaurant via that restaurant, which is engaging in it. This is P.O.C. McDonald's is a terrorist. Okay, their food service provision is relevant to what is surveillance, which is the purpose of McDonald's. P.O.C. All right, this bus is operated by 3393. She's engaged in sexual assault and battery. I'm being molested with impossible light while the entity is indeed targeting. You've already seen the impossible light activity on the bus. I captured it in video again for the world to witness what is very specific, detailed targeting by a population that knows who you are. That knowledge and that criminal targeting in furtherance of a criminal objective, which is shared by the government that's stalking in planes, helicopters, police vehicles, fire trucks, on the roads and the highways, doing so under what is the fake sun that remains over me, and also gang stalking with impossible light activity while they're monitoring with those that are under the age of majority. These are gang stalking kids. Communication devices, stalking in the impossible light, sharing in the sex offense, perpetual sex offense. Employee 3393 is engaging in that. And this is the P.O.C. Employee 4254, as I'm documenting last night, he's gang stalking with Ontario police who are stalking me by helicopter. This is the pattern of conduct. I'm engaging in the due diligence of documenting it, but this is the unmistakable pattern of conduct that they're all sharing in. Again, employee 3393, let me get the fake sign. This is impossible light activity. 3393 is monitoring.
Sorry?
Have we passed Jennifer yet?
Jennifer?
Jennifer. This is San Bernardino Avenue, correct?
Yes.
Are you coming up on Jennifer?
Yes. It's that next, not this light, but the following one. And
Okay.
I do not have a stop there unless you're going to.
I just want to find out where I'm at. Thank you. This is P.O.C. Thank you. And the entity is monitoring me, targeting me with impossible light. They're all gang stalking on the bus. And this is the entity that's stalking you in order to murder you. And UPS is engaging in that pattern of conduct by stalking with a commercial plane flying over the Ontario Mills. Not flying over the 10 freeway, they were over the Ontario Mills. And they were gang stalking, the commercial airlines were stalking me in Ontario at the Ontario Town Square. This is how detailed it is. 9 Jerry Wendy Zebra 310. Gang stalking through the elementary schools with the minor children. Gang stalking as they drop their children off and pick them up. And the entities engage in that while they are witnessing their own demise. This is the adjacent city conduct where the entity is stalking in the sky space with commercial planes. You can see that? Here you go. This is the P.O.C. Southwest Airlines. Gang stalking. This is the P.O.C. This is at what is 9720 Jennifer Avenue, where the fake sun is present day and night. Excuse me, day into the evening. This is indeed recognizing the hallmarks. And this is again 3393, who's targeting and furtherance of murder. Omnitrans, again, succumbing to the inevitable pattern of conduct, which is the basis of the federal prosecution for terrorism as a violent sex offender, as a threat to the public, which is again removing businesses from existing. You don't maintain a constitutional right to have a business that's engaging in surveillance and furtherance of murdering people. This is the beast system that Omnitrans, Southwest Airlines are engaging in. And Southwest Airlines, by the way, is headquartered in Dallas, Texas. There is no commercial airline company, commercial airlines and no airport in Fontana. The entity is flying over the top of my head by Amazon Prime Air at the Fontana Stater Brothers. This is very targeted. The fake sun is over this bus. So this is Southwest Airlines that is very much engaged in stalking me. Very foolish conduct because it's going to be played in court, and the harmful conduct of the corruption of these companies that are stalking. It's a threat to the public. The company is engaged in what is a threat to the public while they are engaging in that P.O.C. together. These are the people of the state. 7DZX164, 5BHC 084. Targeting with impossible light with Southwest Airlines, with Omnitrans, with employee 3393.
All right, this is the pattern of conduct, and this is the fake sun. The fake sun's on the, by the way, the passenger side of their vehicles. They're stalking in Fontana. The entity's keeping the fake sun over me while I'm on the bus en route, and then they have, while their driver's side faces me, impossible light. This is the entity. These are demons. This is the beast system, and this is a prosecution of the companies, the RICO case, that are targeting American citizens in order to, in furtherance of murdering them. And this is the entity that failed in doing that, also seeking to frame me for murder. They're being prosecuted. Every license plate that I'm documenting, every company, P.O.C. License 17P 778, and this is Juniper Village Apartments. The entire property is gang stalking. This is surveillance. It is currently 8:12 a.m. where another employee is going to be federally prosecuted for conspiring by murder and doing so while operating a coach on the roads and the highways. And this is the city of Fontana that is gang stalking me in the same way that they are with the city of Ontario. P.O.C. It's 8:12 a.m. Alright, this is employee number 4146. The entity is engaged in monitoring. It's 8:50 a.m. The same route, going in the opposite direction, where demons are stalking on the roads and the highways in furtherance of murdering me. This is a psychopath, license 5 Thomas Frank Kelly 118, stalking with light while employee 4146 is sharing in that terrorism. License 11270YK, Natural Systems Utilities, is also gang stalking. And they're stalking with light while they are aware of the fact that I'm documenting this terrorist driving the vehicle, which is a threat to my life, while they're gang stalking me together on the roads and highways. This is where there are no car accidents, by the way. This is the entity that's engaged in that together. I'm going to federally prosecute him. This is African-American male. This is bus 2355, employee number 4146. Stalking me with impossible lights, a violent sex offender. The fake sun remains outside of my window while on the same bus route as what 3393 drove, now going back in the opposite direction. Okay, that's speaking of targeting by Southwest Airlines, by U.S.C, by McDonald's, by Ryder, by all of the entity that I'm identifying for you. That was Amazon Prime gang stalking on Sierra Avenue. All right, license 08433 Frank 3. These are the demons that are stalking with impossible light with the employee operating this bus. License 6L28320. This is P.O.C. Pay attention. 8UPJ 805. And these are the entity that stole my wealth, that's seeking to frame me for murder, and that's conspiring murder 19811D3. And this is the obvious, clear engagement in the pattern of conduct. There's no secrets about what they're doing and who's doing it. And this is the ease with which I'm prosecuting the government. All right, there's no way for them to secretly gang stalk you. All right, and they also can't hide their demon possession. License 9PEK342, NICUVP. In 9EOL77P. They're all stalking me with employee 4146, which is the basis of federal prison. All right, there's minor children on the bus that are sharing in the pattern of conduct as well, monitoring me, doing so in that environment, and this is all state action. This is Omnitrends, the business that doesn't have any right to exist while conspiring murder, making money off of it. It's an unprecedented RICO case to put the coach operators in prison and also to prosecute the business civilly and criminally. Right, this is P.O.C. The entity that's engaged in that pattern of conduct, and that's supernatural. It has nothing to do with the actual vehicles on the roads and the highways. This is demonic. It's pursuant to surveillance. It's domestic terrorism. And they're doing so while they are being documented and they're monitoring the evidence. Okay, just to let you know, this is the beast system amongst the psychopaths that conspire your murder. They have sex with children. They engage in murder and demonic rituals while they're engaged in targeting people. And I'm documenting and prosecuting and exposing it. They're doing so while they are frustrated and hostile. The demon-possessed don't have any self-control. So I capture them, engage in what are retaliation tactics, which is criminal monitoring, for them to be placed in medical facilities where they're being committed. I just document a whole bunch of demons to be committed. Stalking with light is mentally ill conduct, and everybody on the bus, including the bus driver, are stalking with light together. Okay, this is employee 4146. This is the pattern of conduct. This is the federal RICO case, P.O.C. All right, it is currently 3:45 p.m. And this is evidence that is relevant to the overarching pattern of conduct and the corruption of the government, the state actors within the entity that have participated in what is my ultimate demise, murder, and that is chiefly through the means of defamation, which is criminal, while the entity is engaged in the stalking system, the surveillance system. Okay, this is San Bernardino County.
I want you to see that logo. This is San Bernardino County. The entity is maintaining what house for resources, which I am taking advantage of those resources, but the entity is monitoring, okay? So I want to make sure that this is clear, and it never changes the entity that is threatening me, the entity that's providing resources, giving me hand lotion if I request it, somewhere where I can do my laundry if I need to. They are still engaging in the pattern of conduct. These demons are inside of a San Bernardino County venue. This is the government. And they're engaging in the criminal pattern of conduct. The entity stalking by helicopter as I look out the window, speaking to what is tracking my steps inside of the building. Where I'm walking around, the fake sun is over me. I took a picture of that. You'll see the fake sun over the patio area while I'm at this back over here. And you'll see engineered light that's flat on the inside of the building. That's impossible light activity. It's also impossible while the entity's keeping the fake sun over the Fontana Lewis Library, while it's remaining keeping the fake sun, as the documentation shows, my evidence documenting the Ovid Family Community Library, maintaining a catalog, entire PDF, with regard to the kidnappings and the criminal summoning tactics of gang stalking me in furtherance of murder and criminally defaming me. The entity kept the fake sun from sunrise till sunset, and that's over a term of years as well. It's impossible under all those circumstances. It's also impossible that you're driving and any sunlight's going to touch me on the desk inside of the Fontana Lewis Library, that is going to touch inside of the Fontana Lewis Library on the ceiling, that any light's going to be sparking off of your car into a building, that the sun would be over the same building, or that there is more than one sun and that it could ever be over what is 2940 Inland Empire Boulevard in Ontario, California, where it's remaining over any location, including when I'm living in LA, when I'm traveling to Las Vegas, Nevada from what is Azusa, California on the freeway. This is time of year analysis. What the entity did is sitting on the record and it doesn't change. And the P.O.C. is providing what is an ongoing example regarding the supernatural pattern of conduct. And this is speaking to what is supernatural, speaking to what is beyond a reasonable doubt, in other words, to a scientific degree of certainty, that the government is targeting, and the government's targeting in a malicious manner, that is a satanic manner, supernatural manner, meaning an American citizen that's not equipped with the weaponry, which is evidence to prosecute a corrupt government by virtue of its identity, and also the fact that it's maliciously targeting in satanic means. The entity that is demon possessed is engaging in this with full intention to take the life of an American citizen. Taking their life is preceded by taking their reputation, defaming them, criminal defamation, which is going to be appreciated under federal law. San Bernardino County is engaged in what is criminal defamation and kidnapping. All right, and the entity is engaging what is monitoring me inside of San Bernardino County. The entity is gang stalking me with the same police department, the same people of the state, same vagina monitoring underway, and this is captured at 3:48 p.m. This is to be appreciated and to be recognized. This is the pattern of conduct. This is at Via Mullen. All right, this is the entity. Remember, bigger picture, I'm Omnitrans coming to the Fontana Lewis Library, and I'm going right on this same street at 7 in the morning. I'm passing this venue, and the fake sun is over me. So this is speaking to very clear targeting by the entity. All right, and San Bernardino County is entirely corrupt. Everything that they've stated regarding my reputation, regarding a relationship, and their legitimacy as any behavioral health department is entirely corrupt and malicious, and everyone engaging in that is going to federal prison. Okay, that's what's happening. This is P.O.C. It is currently 3:49 p.m. Venue acting like nothing has happened. These are the demons that are engaged in that pattern of conduct together. This is surveillance aboard public country, and it's an unlawful threat to my life. It is in furtherance of murder, and this is in concert with the Ontario Police Department. Mike LORENZ is going to prison by this very evidence. He's not the only one. San Bernardino County conspiring with the Ontario Police Department. They're holding hands because they're going to prison. I want you to watch the fake sun move over the same
This is speaking to demon possession, demons who are stalking, keeping you under surveillance while I'm exposing and prosecuting this entity in California. Alrighty, that same McDonald's. This is P.O.C. And it's a federal RICO where McDonald's is making money, engaging in surveillance, and conspiring the murder of someone. And it's a company that does not maintain any right to further exist. None of them are too rich or too big to fail. This prosecution will remove them. This is P.O.C. It is currently 4:03 p.m. These are the demon possessed. P.O.C. Employee 4352. And this is the same light activity that the demon this morning, the African American male, that was gang stalking while I am coming from the McDonald's at the Ontario Mills. This is the same pattern of conduct. The same pattern of conduct with the fake sun at a much later hour, speaking to targeting by Omnitrans, targeting by that city, targeting by the people of the state, targeting by demons that are gang stalking on the roads and the highways. This is the entity that's engaged in that as I'm capturing their license plates regarding what is terrorism. They're monitoring while the entity has impossible light. These are stalkers. And these are the demon possessed that are the people of the state. Alright, I just want to be clear, you're witnessing what is the exposure of the beast system and the demon possessed that are engaged in criminal monitoring. The entity is engaging in this while I'm being targeted, gang stalked by helicopter with the Omnitrans, the bus line, and the employees. I'm being gang stalked by the Ontario International Airport, the commercial airline companies. They're going into adjacent cities to engage in that, like what I've documented in Montclair, California, and in Fontana, California. And this is the entity that's engaged in that. It's 4:40 p.m. where the entity has the fake sun here. And this ongoing light activity is the prosecution for psychological torture, which is, again, a never before contemplated basis to prosecute the government that is conspiring your murder and doing so in furtherance of seeking to criminally defame you. This entity sought to frame me, is engaging in this pattern of conduct to frame me for murder. Literally, the demons that are gang stalking on the bus are the entity that are seeking to frame me for murder and murder me and steal my money, which the entity has already done in a court that I was not present in regarding the violation of my due process rights. My due process rights that are an illusion. That's why the court permitted that to happen. Okay? It is currently, by the way, 4:40 p.m. This is indeed P.O.C. And that is the basis for unprecedented damages. Companies are no longer going to exist based on this evidence that companies are existing for the criminal purposes of the government and they are not private parties. This is the entity that's engaging in that specific environment. All right, this is Sierra Avenue, where the entity is maintaining the fake sun at the same time over the Fontana Lewis Library, where I've documented the entity keeping the fake sun over that library, and yet while I'm en route in the city of Fontana, this fake sun is staying over me. And then you're looking at the cartoon environment. This is terrorism. It's psychological torture, it's harassment, it's threatening, and it's relevant to the criminal activity that everybody on the bus, that is everyone in the state, is engaging in. Okay? This is the same throne where the entity has the fake sun planted over me. I'm capturing this during the 5 p.m. hour after leaving the Fontana Lewis Library. The fake sun's remaining over me en route to the venue, and that's just one of the examples. The entity's keeping the fake sun over the Ovid Family Community Library while I'm remaining there, as I documented last week, where the Ontario Police and the Ontario International Airport are stalking. That's just the ongoing pattern of conduct. This is P.O.C. And the entity is engaging what is terrorism before the world. So everyone knows what California is filled with. Everyone knows, no matter how many children they have, no matter what position they hold, no matter what their race is, no matter what their age is, these are the demon possessed. All right, and the people of the state are domestic terrorists. They are no longer that identifying actor within the Constitution that is providing what is consent to the government. The people of the state are terrorists, and they have conclusively waived and literally abandoned the role that they have under the law. And this is changing the trajectory. It's changing the landscape of the law in this country. The people of the state are engaging in criminal activity. Employee 4352 is his name. This is the basis of mental examination, stalking with light, also federal prison. This is P.O.C. It is currently 4:43 p.m. This is all about me. Everybody on this bus is stalking. The bus itself, the company, the employees are stalking. The city is stalking. P.O.C. This is Foothill Boulevard. License 9RNR 511, I believe. This is 1666 Foothill Boulevard. This is the intersection of Juniper Avenue and Foothill, and it is 5 p.m. And this is employee number 4360 in the city of Fontana, aboard a different route, and the same pattern of conduct is underway. And employee 4360 is engaging in the same ongoing trauma, inflicting the same trauma regarding stalking with impossible light in concert with the people of the state who are engaging in criminal surveillance in furtherance of my murder. 31329 Edward 2, 8 Zebra Indiana Frank 932, 9 Thomas Robert Victor 047. And the fake son turns onto Foothill Boulevard and does not remain in Fontana at the Fontana Metrolink train station, where the entity is stalking, by the way, with commercial airline planes. And the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct in the city of Ontario that maintains a city airport. And you are seeing how that is absolutely irrelevant with the clear targeting underway by the entity and the commercial airline companies. This is the entity that's gang stalking. This is the fake son over the same person. Okay? Not only that, while it's remaining simultaneously over the Ovid Family Community Library, while it's remaining simultaneously over the Fontana Lewis Library, and so on and so forth. It is impossible that this would be the son, including my evidence that includes me traveling on Route 66, and doing so in the morning, in the afternoon, coming from Fontana, going in the opposite route, going toward Fontana, going to Montclair, already in Upland, getting aboard this same route. This is the entity that is indeed gang stalking. Employee number 4360 is doing so. Furtherance of murder, and this is the position of Omnitrans, which is a state actor, and of the people of the state who are engaging what are working for state companies such as the transit lines that are engaging in systematic surveillance on the roads and the highways, which is entirely threatening to the lives of American citizens. You need to understand, where they're maintaining surveillance on the roads and the highways, they engage in murder, and they also maintain an insurance system where they are profiting from that. They don't have car accidents where they're monitoring you in the specific environment. This entity is gang stalking me and stalking me obsessively with regard to stealing my wealth, getting away with stealing my wealth, framing me for murder, and also murdering me. 9 George Queen Jerry 421 shares in that, while they are stalking specifically me, knowing who I am, with regard to the impossibility that the son would be over this bus traveling in this direction over the same person that has the ability to document this at all times of the day. This is gang stalking, and these are demons, and this is the beast system. All right, and this is the entity. Employee 4360 is doing so with the city of Fontana into the city of Rancho Cucamonga and the city of Ontario. This is P.O.C. It is currently 5:03 p.m. It also goes into Upland, California. But my point is that they're engaged in massive facilitation, which shall be the basis for these drivers, these coach operators, to go to prison. And based on the ongoing pattern of conduct that they're engaging in, as I'm documenting that, that's exactly what justice requires, because they will not be treated differently than the rest of the people of the state that are engaged in surveillance in the libraries, in the grocery store, on the roads and the highways, in my household where I live, or where the entity is maintaining what is kidnapping in the facilitating venues like West Valley Detention Center. And they are doing so with the entity that is providing evidence against employee number 4360. Alrighty, this is the entity that's literally a commercial airline plane that you saw. And again, I just want to be clear, employee 4360 and the like, they will be subject to being committed. They will be subject to prison. They will be subject to what is an inevitable prosecution for terrorism. While the entity engages in that pattern of conduct, okay, these are demons that cannot help themselves. It is literally a mental illness. They are engaging in typically murdering people in secret, maintaining a false narrative publicly in this country, keeping us conditioned with propaganda. And while I'm showing you that they have impulses that are very damning with regard to them being prosecuted, that's a demon that can't control themselves, but it's damning to her. I'm going to prosecute her, and I'm going to prosecute Omnitrans, and everybody on this bus is gang. Everybody on the bus is gang stalking. This is P.O.C. This is Foot. In Citrus. And it's 5:03 p.m. Employee number 4360. This is P.O.C. It's 9:28 p.m. You'll see on the Google Drive, I took pictures moments ago. The Mike Lorenz is this agency under the corrupt leadership of Mike Lorenz. This is Mike Lorenz that is stalking. Mike Lorenz is stalking. This is helicopter activity, stalking me by helicopter at the Ovid Family Community Library, flying in circles is what that is indicative of. I took pictures minutes ago and they're just flying in circles over and over again. The entity is doing so. It's 9:28 p.m. That'll be on the Google Drive, the image that I took in this ongoing documentation of incessant helicopter activity. The entity is engaging what is monitoring on my device. That's what you hear now. They interfered with the signal. Now you hear this is the entity that's monitoring. But I want to document, this is relevant to why the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, they don't have any authority. You are not engaged in any lawful arrests, and that is the basis. Even a tortious arrest, false imprisonment, is that which would still render jurisdiction for San Bernardino County, in which case you would sue, okay, for as a tortious actor. This is not that. This is criminal. This is corruption. This is a criminally cooperative act by the Ontario Police, kidnapping, and the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department kidnapping and exercising authority under the law, which is not enforced by criminals who are merely dressing up and exercising authority that they don't have. They don't have any warrant. No warrant will be produced from not arriving to a court case, not responding to a citation, or whatever it is that the gang stalking entity is targeting you with. That's exactly what's been happening since 2020. The entity engaging in kidnapping, and I disregard these acts by them, and they are going to prison. Under the law, they do not have authority. My prosecution is serving to enforce my rights because they've been engaging in that which they don't have the power to do. You are not stalking me and then engaging in a lawful arrest so that when that criminal act is committed, then you are producing a warrant because your criminal activity was not respected by that victim of your criminal conduct. And then you have demons like the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, that corrupt forum venue that is entertaining that, facilitating what is this criminal system. They do not have these devices in actuality under the law, under the Constitution. It is the criminal act of kidnapping as an entity engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. The ongoing gang stalking by the Ontario Police is directly supporting that. Every intentional and malicious act of kidnapping by the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department and the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court. This is an entity that's going to prison for this. Lisa Rogan committed kidnapping upon criminal defamation, pursuant to kidnapping by this entity that you hear stalking, that you see stalking on a daily basis, by the way. And insofar as me documenting it and these demons being in denial, suffering from actual mental illness that is now attacking them, they are putting Lisa Rogan in prison for me. Lisa Rogan is putting the Ontario Police Department out of business and every kidnapper in prison for me. This is the entity that's serving to prosecute the demons who are no genuine, legitimate, authorized sheriff's department. They intentionally engage in kidnapping. The fake sun remains over Shannon Dykes' venues, where the multiple gang stalking departments such as Upland Police, Chino Police, Pomona Police, they're not even San Bernardino County, but they're so obsessed with my vagina and so hostile with my evidence of them stalking me. Those are psychopaths because you're angry because I'm exposing you for criminal activity. They go to San Bernardino County at the West Valley Detention Center to gang stalk me under the fake sun. They are intentionally engaging in kidnapping, not, in other words, ignorant that the Ontario Police Department is kidnapping me, pursuant to obsessively stalking me. They're not ignorantly engaging in that. In the same way that they commit sexual assault and battery, beating me up and stripping me nude to put me in the ward after no event is occurring, based on whose word? Tracy Banks's word? That I'm mentally ill. That's all it takes amongst the gang members that maintain a fraudulently procured power of attorney, conservatorship, and the gang members of San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department will strip you nude and put you in the ward and just keep you on camera and make you a patient by virtue of presence, and that's it.
After being kidnapped by the stalkers you're hearing and seeing on my social media every single day. The demons who are the gang members of the Ontario Police, of the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, and they are infested within the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court. There is no such thing as any warrant. There is no such thing as having authority under the law. There is no jurisdiction to summon into any courtroom. There is nothing other than a fictitious exercise of authority under the law pursuant to any judge being dumb enough, because that's what it is, to entertain what these demons are producing with regard to evidence to going to prison. Because that trail is that's exactly what's going to be. It's going to be a trail. Everybody entertaining what Mike Lorenz is engaging in, you're going to prison. That's what's happening. You're going to prison. This is P.O.C. It is currently 9:34 p.m. They're stalking when I'm getting off the Omnitrans bus. They're stalking while I'm on the Omnitrans bus, stalking as I'm going down the street. That's what I documented Omnitrans employees engaging in. The entity is stalking while I'm at the San Bernardino County Clubhouse today. That's what I documented, and I went outside and got the fake sun at 3:45 in the afternoon. Ontario Police stalking. And the proof is literally the fake sun. This is the entity that's flying over my head again. And this is where the airport is stalking. I'm taking picture after picture of planes right here, targeting. And they were in Fontana and in Rancho Cucamonga while I am capturing video, and these idiots are giving me this evidence. And the people of the state are demons slinging light all over the place. These are the gang stalkers that are being committed, okay? These are the demons that are putting those that are part of this terrorism. You don't see Lisa Rogan's face in my evidence. She's all throughout, all over this evidence. She's going to prison for this. This is why she's going to prison. She engaged in what is criminal defamation. She is shaking hands with the Ontario Police Department and engaging in that criminal conspiracy to commit murder. And she does so while she is sitting in a courtroom and defaming my character after being kidnapped, which she knows all about, especially while the fake sun sits over that courthouse, which I documented. All right, this is P.O.C. It is currently 9:54 p.m. It's 10:13 p.m. This is the stalker. Flying over, stalking again, but stalking conspicuously. And they're taking turns with the airport, flying plane after plane after plane. It's currently 10:13 p.m. This is psychopathic pacing by the entity. This is the entity stalking by plane. It's 10:11 p.m. That was 2 minutes earlier. The entity maintaining ongoing plane activity. This is the entity gang stalking plane after plane. This is 9:58 p.m. This is the entity that's engaged in that pattern of conduct, stalking obsessively with planes. This is the entity that is stalking by helicopter. This is what they were doing before. It's 10:13 stalking by helicopter. This was at 9:52 p.m. Stalking, flying over me by helicopter. This is psychopathic pacing, ongoing obsession, not going anywhere, repeatedly just flying in circles, flying over my head, repeatedly engaging in this ongoing terrorism using the helicopters of the Ontario Police Department. And this is, again, where the Ontario City Hall is located. Pollyanna is being prosecuted for this. All right, this is the entity that's doing so on a 24-hour basis, where the City Hall is open when the City Hall is closed. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct while they're engaging in surveillance together as an entity. The entity is maintaining ongoing pacing by plane, 9:49 p.m. Engaging in what is stalking, flying over the Senior Center, the Ontario City Hall, and the entity is engaging in, this was the helicopter activity captured at 9:28 p.m. Well, you can hear the helicopter activity as the entity is flying over me, and in that video what's the podcast audio I'm speaking to, this is the audio of the entity stalking me by helicopter is captured at 9:28 p.m. and I'm capturing images when they begin, so they were doing that for over 12 minutes. It's 9:16 p.m. when they're in this image right here where you see them stalking. They're flying over, stalking by helicopter. And I take pictures of that, and then I capture more audio while they're just incessantly stalking by helicopter, not going anywhere, flying back and forth over my head, flying in circles. And this is what they're doing with the airport that's engaging in that pattern of conduct. This is the entity that's stalking at 9:12 p.m., doing so by commercial airline planes. This is the entity that's doing so in this specific environment. Obviously, my shadows on both sides of my person. This is the engineered environment where the entity is stalking. As you can see here, this is for April 17th. There are no flights scheduled from any time after 9 at 10:15 p.m., 10:26 p.m. It's currently 10:16 p.m. right now, and the entity's been stalking by planes. So this is at 9:49 p.m. the Ontario International Airport, the gang stalking commercial airline planes in concert with Mike LORENZ in the Ontario Police Department, stalking me, targeting me outside of what's published on the website for the Ontario International Airport. Mike LORENZ is going to federal prison for this. This is the entity flying over my head as I am gang stalked by Delta Airlines, Frontier Airlines, American Airlines, Alaska Airlines, Southwest Airlines, Amazon Prime Air, UPS, all the entity that's stalking by these commercial airline planes that are stalking me, and doing so outside of what's published on the website for the Ontario International Airport. And as I document them gang stalking, they are engaging in what is threatening my life. I'm going to prosecute, and there will be a dollar amount put on the ongoing terrorism by the commercial airline companies and Lisa Rogan, for example, the gang stalking courthouses that are stripped of any authority under the law, while Mike LORENZ is exposing the fact that he's committed a series of kidnappings and seeking to frame me for murder that this entity committed, and also to murder me via the ongoing terrorism by the commercial airline companies who are stalking me. And as you can see on the website that is published, where the Ontario police are stalking, that is where the commercial airline companies are stalking. And they are flying over the Ontario City Hall. They are flying over the Ontario Senior Center. They're flying over the Senior Citizen Apartment Complex. They are doing so, like I documented this morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. They're flying in adjacent cities where there's no airport, and you are not landing from Fontana. You're not landing while I am at the Ontario Mills. You're also not landing here at the Ontario Town Center behind the amphitheater. You're not landing behind the Chevron on Euclid Avenue and F Street. This is the entity that is stalking, and this is what I'm documenting, where the Ontario police are stalking me, and they engage in terrorism like what you just witnessed right now, while they are monitoring the evidence against them. In furtherance of murdering me, they proceed to commit more acts of terrorism and psychological torture. I'm going to torture and stalk and harass you more with this helicopter activity while you're speaking to the fact that I'm stalking you. And while you're identifying my co-defendants who are stalking you with me as an agency, because we have conspired to kill you. All right, this is the entity that has no jurisdiction. San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department have no jurisdiction. They are not producing any warrants from the stalkers, from the co-conspirators of murder, from the terrorists, the Ontario Police Department. All right, this is P.O.C. and the entity, like I was stating, which this is evidence that they're very fearful of, and this is why you're going to pay attention. There are no flights. All right, and there are no flights that are published. You've got what is Frontier Airlines, Delta Airlines. You've got what is United Airlines. That's not until 5:10 in the morning, though. 11:59, 10:26, and 10:15, 8:59 p.m. That's all you got. Ontario International Airport is not a major, highly active airport, first of all. But I'm capturing very frequent use of planes over me. Ontario International Airport is not LAX. It's an alternative to what are very highly used airports like LAX, number one. Number two, everywhere where the entity has these airline companies that are stalking me, that are engaged in the ongoing conspiracy to commit murder, which is an unprecedented RICO case by companies that are acting with the government, that you hear stalking me by helicopter. They're engaging in this while they are producing the evidence of what flights and destinations where they're headed to. But I'm being targeted by these same airline companies when there's not even anything published regarding any sort of destination. And so that's what you're looking at here. This is what I produce. The entity's engaging in what is stalking by planes as I'm capturing this at what is, again, that's the Ontario Police at 9:16 p.m. This is the Ontario International Airport that is stalking at what is, oh, I just want you to see this while they're flying over the top of my head again. All right, these are the demons that know that they're going to prison, by the way. They're not just going to prison. These companies are going to be bankrupted, and I'm going to prosecute, and they will be forking over any and all monies that they have based on the incalculable harm that you cannot quantify regarding conspiring my murder as a company, and that's doing so on behalf of corrupt, stalking police departments that are spending millions of dollars using helicopters and all the resources of a police department and facilitating criminal activity with the people of the state who are all stalking me together. It is very much a pattern of conduct, demons that are stalking with light under a fake sun. And it is very damning to American Airlines, Delta Airlines, Alaska Airlines, United Airlines, etc., the Ontario International Airport that is going to be shut down, including Alan D. WAPNER and Jim Bowman and Julia Gu. All of these terrorists that are on the board and on the executive team, they're going to be prosecuted as terrorists. While the entity is stalking me by helicopter as an agency, it's the same city of Ontario. And they are not only held responsible, they are aware of the pattern of conduct. Remember, the fake sun is over the Ontario International Airport. The entity is keeping a fake sun over these terminals while I'm on Omnitrans. The entity is doing that at all hours of the day. The entity is stalking me in Fontana, California, stalking me in Montclair, California, stalking me while I'm in Pomona, California, stalking me while I am in Rancho Cucamonga as I'm documenting even aboard transit where these commercial airline companies are stalking. And I'm going to continue showing you this point because Mike LORENZ is particularly perturbed and is repeatedly flying over my head by helicopter as I expose this to you. This is relevant to damages. The people of the state are being prosecuted just like the employees driving the bus. While they're stalking me by helicopters, I'm prosecuting the bus drivers. I'm prosecuting the bus company. The entity, this is criminal conspiracy, so you're going to prison. I'm going to prosecute you, and I'm going to charge you for the criminal conduct that you are participating in, including while your idiotic co-defendant keeps targeting me, and I'm documenting you. While I'm documenting them, I'm documenting you. I'm prosecuting you. This is an entity. This is the entity that's maintaining this ongoing plane act. Alrighty, at 10:11 p.m., as you will see, April 17 p.m., there is 10:15 p.m., you've got Delta Airlines, and 10:26 p.m., Delta Airlines. Delta Airlines coming from what is flight number DL447 going to Atlanta, coming from gate 208. And that's not going to include an actual destination isn't going to include flying miles away from the airport, approximately like northwest, over 4 miles. You can look on Google Maps where I'm at the Ontario Senior Center, Ovid Family Community Library, and 2500 Airport Road. The entity is flying miles away from the airport and then hovering over the Ontario City Hall where I'm at. That's not a destination that you're headed to. That's not a takeoff from the airport. They're not going to Atlanta. They're not headed to a destination while I'm documenting this here. But nonetheless, I am showing that there are not even any scheduled flights while the entity is stalking me with these same commercial airline companies. The entity is engaging in this repeatedly as I've been documenting, including at 5 o'clock in the morning. Just like I went through and gave you the tutorial regarding the federal prosecution of commercial airline companies, the breakdown of the federal RICO case. These companies that are conspiring murder, they are terrorists, and they are also seeking what is going to be a removal of that company altogether because they are found to be threatening national security. The entity is engaging in this conduct. 9:58 p.m. There is no flight here. You'll see that. 10:15, 10:26, 11:59 p.m. There's no flights here. Okay. This is not produced on the website. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct. Yeah, that's the 9:57 flight. This one, like I stated, I went over. I just want to show you 9:49 p.m. That is not on the website. They've got 2 flights during the 10 p.m. hour, one at 8:59 p.m. The entity is stalking me through these commercial airline companies, flying miles over to where I'm located, hovering over the buildings where I'm located, and they're doing that in the specific environment with the terrorists, the Ontario Police Department, who are proving that they are indeed targeting me, which is why the Ontario Police is targeting me. Alrighty, this one at 7:48 p.m., flying over the Ontario City Hall, commercial airline plane. This is where I was located, the Ontario City Hall, while I was on the opposite side of the same Ontario Senior Center in the parking lot side, look where you could see the building, Ontario City Hall, which is where I remain. I remain at the same Ontario City Hall, just a different side of the same building. And this is at 7:46 p.m. And at the Ontario City Hall, the commercial airline companies are targeting me, flying miles away from the airport and hovering over that parking lot. The plane activity.
They're stalking while I'm on Route 66 in Rancho Cucamonga, and they're
that plane activity, you're talking about what is a low elevation. You're hovering and you've flown miles away from the airport. That's not a takeoff, not headed to any particular destination. The destination is where Erica Lorenz Spencer is at, stalking me. And they're also doing it at what is 7:48 p.m. where there is no scheduled flight. I just want to be clear on that. This is at 7:08 p.m. Alaska Airlines and at 7:35 p.m. American Airlines, going to Seattle and Phoenix respectively, coming from gates 205 and 410, scheduled on time. This is not that, okay? And neither are their destinations. Planes that are headed to the destinations, anybody that's been on an airplane, that takeoff is occurring on the property of the airport. And I have never been on a plane headed to a destination, nor have I been on a plane headed to a destination where the pilot is letting us know, well, we're gonna do a tour in the city first, and then we're gonna proceed to our destination, hovering throughout the city. When you're on a plane headed to a destination that you pay for, which is published because other people are also relying on you to arrive or to leave on time, people that are helping you in transit, what you are expecting as you plan your trip, plan your life around your flight to whatever destination, you are taking off from that airport. You're taking off on the property of that airport, and if that takeoff is essentially complete. When you are flying miles away, like where the Ontario Senior Center is, the Ovid Family Community Library, the Ontario Town Square, the Stater Brothers Ontario Village Shopping Center, the entities engaged in what is hovering over me, and moreover, they're doing it in the environment where a fake sun and a fake moon and engineer light is present, and the Ontario Police Department cannot control their ongoing impulses to stalk me. They're obsessed with me and my vagina. They're obsessed with every syllable that I utter. They're so obsessed that Mike Lorenz is going to prison, and he has not slowed down with regard to accumulating years that he will sit in federal prison as a terrorist. All right, this is P.O.C. And this is the entity that has clearly failed in framing me for murder and depicting me as some delusional person who's hallucinating, who is making up stories, fantastical stories about being stalked by strangers, not making up anything. The entity is very much engaged in a pattern of conduct, and Ontario police are not the only agency that's going to be embarrassed and federally prosecuted. This is why Los Angeles County is coming into San Bernardino County to gang stalk me. Not the first time either. The entities engaging in this, and they're doing so pursuant to what is federal prison. Gang stalking police officers are going to federal prison. These are homegrown terrorists, and their leaders, the so-called mayors, they're being removed from office, and Paul Leon's being prosecuted literally through this video. This is P.O.C. It is currently 10:28 p.m. P.O.C. These are the demons who are defiant in the face of being defeated and exposed, and they're going to pay what are very destructive damages to destroy these companies and make sure that they no longer exist and that they are exposed internationally as terrorists. They are enemies of the United States, and they're enemies of whatever country that you're in. They're murdering people while I'm exposing them, gang stalking me, and doing so while they're being exposed on the internet. They're witnessing this damning evidence, and they're persisting and engaging in that which is damning to themselves. These are companies that are going to cease to exist. They just engaged in what is a cartwheel. So they're just flying over here stalking for the purpose of stalking me. I don't care that I'm caught. I don't care that I'm embarrassed. I'm going to keep on stalking because I cannot face reality that this little person, this little female is defeating me. That's the entity that's determined to commit murder. Murder that's not going to happen. What they've murdered is the prospects of these airline companies. I'm going to prosecute them. And the damages will be so heavy that the company will not exist anymore. And that's justice. This is P.O.C. You already know there's no flights that are scheduled right now. It's 10:30 p.m. And you're not going to a destination when you're merely hovering over the city hall and then doing a cartwheel. They're not going to Seattle. They're not going to Dallas, Texas. They're stalking. This is P.O.C. It's currently 10:30 p.m. This is what the terrorists are doing while the terrorists are already prosecuted. This is the evidence. The federal government is going to remove these companies from existence. You don't have a right to exist as a company. That's not a constitutional right. That's not interfering with your freedom of speech. It doesn't exist to engage in terrorism. So I'm going to drain you, and then you will cease to exist. P.O.C. Here's another plane. Psychopathic pacing. This is the city hall. These are the demon-possessed that are murdering American citizens. This is the Ontario Police Department gang stalking in the same manner, flying repeatedly over my head while I'm exposing gang stalking commercial airline companies. Yeah, UPS was not an accident. That wasn't an accidental mishap regarding the engine that came and nobody knew that there was something wrong. That was murder. In the same way that this is terrorism, stalking, while they're monitoring the evidence. And where the entity is doing this over the community is gang stalking. Okay? These are old people that live over here. And nobody's complaining about the helicopter activity. Nobody's complaining about the planes that don't belong in this area, this multifamily zoning. They're doing so outside of what's published on the website. It would be very easy to submit a complaint. They're engaged in gang stalking. You already know that. Okay. This is P.O.C. It is currently 10:31 p.m. These are the tactics of the mentally ill, the self-destructive conduct. They have literally handed me over their companies. Okay, they've literally handed them over to me, but it is my desire that they cease to exist. They're not needed. They are a liability. They are a threat to the public. So I don't want these companies. You're going to pay me, and you are actually going to prison. You're going to be committed, and I want these companies removed. That's what I want. I don't want the company. This is P.O.C. It is currently 10:32 p.m. The entity is following to the side of the town square where the people of the state, big and small, following with that airport, following with regard to my positioning at the venue, flying over El Bacone that is occupied by gang stalkers in the engineer light. All right, this is the where the Ontario International. There's no more flights. I showed you the schedule. The entity is doing so as I make a sudden move. They are hovering by flying El Bacone. This is not a takeoff. This is stalking by that airport. And they're doing so at what is 11:27 p.m. It's not just the Ontario International Airport. It's the commercial airline companies themselves. I'm going to prosecute all of them. Southwest Airlines, UPS, and Starlux. Every single last one of them. They are engaging in criminal surveillance. That's why the entity is maintaining that environment at the Ontario International Airport. Where a TSA, those that are supposed to be a part of law enforcement and protecting us, are part of criminal surveillance. At the Ontario International Airport, they're being shut down. Ontario International Airport is no more, and I'm going to prosecute these stalkers that are disguising themselves with company names like Delta Airlines and United Airlines and Southwest Airlines. I'm going to prosecute them. They are obsessed, vagina monitoring sex offenders who are obsessively stalking me. This license plate is on the record. Those are two males. Communication devices in hand. They're sitting with their headlights on. They're stalking in the path with light. All right, they are imperfect with where I am getting on the bench. These are demons that are stalking on behalf of the Ontario Police and the airport that's maintaining ongoing aerial surveillance. I already documented their license plates. They're gang stalking all together. This is all a network. They're all monitoring me together. They're all surrounding with light together. They're all stalking with the government that flew over by helicopter. They're all monitoring. It's not separate from what they're doing. This is P.O.C. though. This is the prosecution of the government, and as you can see, it's already complete. All right, this is relevant for doing my due diligence because I'm going to necessarily, as justice requires, I'm going to drain all the finances out of this corrupt entity, and that is to suffocate it of life itself. All right, and many of them it's going to be broken up inevitably because they're going to prison. They're going to federal prison, and the people of the state, those in other parts of the country, they're not going to do what the people in California are doing. They're not going to do it. You're watching California engage in it, and you're going to watch California be prosecuted for it as well. P.O.C.